Hi, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about do you actually need a dedicated writing space to succeed? And so we're going to look at that and why am I sounding like that? In today's episode, we'll look at the question, do you actually need a quite dedicated writing space to succeed as a writer? And what does it mean by having a writing space? Why do we even need one in the first place? Now, by the end of this episode, you will understand the pros and cons of different writing environments and how to make the most of your space, whatever it may be. You know, how to use what you have to create what you want rather than waiting for a time or a place in the future where you'd have something that is unique and awesome. Yeah. And I'll share with you some stories. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is when we talk about writing space, why do we even need a writing space in the first place? Let's think from first principles. Why do we talk about writing space? Why do we even need one in the first place? The thing is, we want a place where we're cut off from the world in a way. We're free from distraction. So people cannot interfere with our work. People cannot come talk to us. Of course, people can be making noise and do whatever they want to do, but they cannot come to us and say, hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? Like every time you try to write a word, they're like, hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? You know, that kind of distraction. So even if people are around, but you're just invisible, like people would not approach you, people would not talk to you, and you just got out from the world and doing what you were doing. Now, the first thing is I think there was a movie. I can't remember the exact name of the movie, but I watched the movie and I was like, wow, this is really, really, really exciting. It was the whole idea of a writer who was facing writer's block. And the writer was like, okay, how do I overcome writer's block right now? So the writer was like, okay, what I need to do is I need to go to a writing retreat and force myself to write the story, right? So the writer, I think there was a service like that. They enrolled, signed the terms and conditions and everything. She was in the place. Now, the rules of the place was that you cannot leave the place until your work is done, right? But in that place, the environment is absolutely conducive. Yeah, like there are no people to disturb you. Like basically, you wake up and all you have to do is write. You take coffee and there's like robotic help on ground to help you. And the room and everything, the device is shut down. You cannot, like, people cannot see you. Nobody can hear you. You can have no contact with the world. You cannot leave the place. You cannot get out of the place until your work is done. Like you cannot just, and the work has to make sense. It's yeah, until you finish your work before you can leave the place. And so all through that process, I saw that even though the writer had the perfect writing space and everything, the writer still could not write. Wanted to leave the place, wanted to see humans, wanted to like she felt like she was in bondage and there was no way she could escape because there was no like it's not like there was someone you could complain to say, oh, I'm tired of this stuff, I want to leave this thing, I don't need it, I'm going to sue you people, I'm going to do this, all this kind of stuff. She could not leave and she was trying to leave, she was making an attempt to leave and all that. I can't remember the exact title of the story, but probably maybe when you talk this ask AI the plot line of the movie, it's recommended to you, but it's a female character. Yeah, yeah, she was trying to write. So that itself, I was like, wait, you can take the writer away from the house or whatever, but you cannot take the writing block away from the writer, right? Something like that. So that itself was like the perfect writing space itself might not be your problem, might not even be what will solve your problem, right? So the question is, in order to get a perfect writing space, one, you need to be free from distraction. You need to be able to focus on the work. But then we can actually create something like that without having to have whatever the perfect writing space might mean for us. So what I mean is, let's say you're a parent, or let's say you have a large extended family where people you don't really get to have a very private room or stuff like that. People come to your room, they ask questions, they barge in, and all this kind of stuff, right? So what you could do is there is a time of the way everybody's asleep. You could sacrifice that time and use it to write, right? So you sit down and usually it's in the night or sometimes it's in the day when everybody has gone to work. That's if the people around you still work, right? Usually it's in the day. So if you stay at home, during the day, when everybody's at work, the house is usually quiet, no disturbance, nothing like that. Or probably in the night when everybody's back from work, everybody's asleep, maybe 9, 10, 1 hour before you go to bed and all that. You would have that time to write. So what would happen is that you'll be free from distractions. Nobody could disturb you. Everyone will be quiet and you could be alone with your thoughts and just write, which is one way. The other way is you could move yourself to a place that has that environment for you. So usually depending on your country and your environment, there will usually be libraries or something sort like that. So you could go to libraries and just write and sit down, read a book, write and sketch on an idea, work on something, right? Now, for most people, they might not have that opportunity. They might not have a library. They might not have that kind of thing. You could go to coffee shops. That if coffee shop there is a thing. But the whole idea is you want a place that is quiet, allows you to walk without being disturbed, and yeah, of course, it's safe and secure. Very important. Yeah, you have to factor that in because the writer can only finish their story if they are alive. Okay, so the next thing is how can you shut yourself away from the world in a way? One of the things you can do is you can use earplugs. So, like, what are they? I don't like to listen to music. You don't have to listen to music. So, send um earplugs. Basically, what they do is they shut you out from the world itself. You can't hear what's happening. And usually, if you're in a spot where you're facing the wall or you're not having a full view of probably the restaurant or anything, you are just with your walk itself, right? You're just walking on your walk. And sometimes you could use music or you could use ambient sounds like rainfall or coffee shops, cafe sounds and stuff like that, and just write, right? The question is, when we talk about writing space, we have to tangibly define what a perfect writing space means for us, and see how we can recreate that using what we have so we can get to write. So the major reasons why we even talk about writing space is because having a perfect writing space will allow you to write without disturbance. That's the first and most important thing. Yeah, because writing itself, it's sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced it, you're writing and you get into a flow state. So you're like, wow, I am the greatest writer. You like, it's that feeling. The writing is just coming, the words is just for me, everything is just connecting. You don't want to be interrupted at that time, because to get into that state again, is another process, it's another time, it's another entire different stuff. So at that point in time, you want to be able to use that flow state as long as it lasts, and then write what you want to write, create what you want to create before you move on. Rather than have someone interrupt you, rather than have someone disturb you, and at the end of the day, you're like, oh, this is really bad, this is stuff like that. So the question is, what intangible words is a perfect writing space? Define it. Oh, writing space must have air conditioner. And for each of those things you mentioned, for each of those things you talk about your perfect writing space, why do you need those things? Like, we need to think of from first principles here, right? Like, so my writing space must have a view to nature. Like, I need to be able to see the grass. Well, most of depending on the environment you are, the window, you could write close to the window. That way, be able to see the environment around you. But you're like, oh, I live in an urban environment. I can't really see nature and every of those things. Right, great. Well, what you could do is you could get a painting or a poster of a sketch of nature stuff and put it on the wall. And every time you're writing, you look at the sketch, like depending on the artwork, and it gets to transport you and stuff like that. Yeah. So it doesn't have to necessarily be that tangible thing itself. The question you need to ask yourself is, why do I need that thing? Right. And so when you understand that, you can be able to create a writing space that works best for you, that fits you. And yeah. So the thing is, we don't want to allow not having a perfect writing space interfere with our work. We don't want to allow not having a perfect writing space be the reason why we don't write in the first place. The thing is, I keep saying is that sometimes we're like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, which is true. Yeah, you're very correct. But the question is, what do you have? Right? Okay, I have this, it's not really good, but I have this, I have this. Okay, these things you have, what can you do with those things? Right? Because when I come back and I look at them, I'm like, okay, I think there was a time where I felt that, because most writers I've read in old times, they use a typewriter to write. So I was like, wow, using the typewriter would be great. It will inspire my work. It will make me a better writer and stuff like that. And I got one. I guess what? When I bought that typewriter, I tried using it and it was absolutely terrible. The noise was just irritating. I could not. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Nah, nah. It wasn't for me. Probably I will attempt it later on in the future, but nah. Like the tablet I stay at home, I have not used it. I didn't do anything, and that's it. You get. But at first, I used to think that when I would get it, so I was like, dude, what do you have now? You have a pen and a paper. Use that right. You don't have to get any fancy software or anything. You use what you have to create what you want, and use where you are to create what you want. And yeah. Okay. So what are the necessary things you could do? That many successful authors have written in a conventional places. J.K. Rowling wrote in a coffee shop and in cafe and other stuff, and different places too. Different environments can stimulate creativity. So the question is, what works best for you? You don't really know, because you've never attempted it. You've never tried it. So how do you even know what works for you? So the question is, try and see what works for you and find that. What are the practical advice in order to find and create a perfect writing space? I've talked about some of them previously, but I'll share them again. First is, want to experiment with different locations and find out what works for you. You want to use noise cancelling headphones, as I said earlier on, or ambient sound for focus, right? And you want to create a mobile writing kit for productivity on the go. Now, for most of us, we do have a mobile writing kit. What is that? It's our phone and an app. So it's a phone and an app. It could be as simple as Google Docs. It could be something like Evernote, like whatever works for you. But the thing is, the notes should be so simple that itself does not distract you from writing, right? Like once you enter there, you'll be able to just write and do your stuff. And there's one thing that's very important: the notes app or whatever you're using should be able to automatically sync to the cloud, because we don't want to write stuff and then have that stuff get missing and you're not able to recover your writing or stuff like that. You want to be able to write without having to worry, oh, what would happen to my writing if my phone gets stolen? You want to be safe to the cloud and everything. And everything should happen automatically without you doing anything. Yeah. So if you have your mobile phone, you have a mobile writing kit, or you could have a very portable notebook and a pen, and you just have it with you anywhere you go. And anywhere you go, you could write, you could sketch, you could do anything. Okay, so it's a mobile writing kit. Now it depends on what that means for you, but you create something on the go. You can use it anywhere, anytime. Like it's easy. And setting up or using it, starting to write itself is not as hard. What I mean by setting up is, if I was to use a typewriter everywhere I go, first it will be bulky, right? But then I'll put it down. I'll try and fix it in the paper. I would make sure everything is well arranged and aligned. Put the inks and test it and see if it's working well. Check if the ink and everything is doing well, and then put in the paper on the right. That's a lot of process. Meanwhile, all this time I did that stuff, I could actually use my phone and just click on the app, the notes app, and immediately start writing. Like immediately start writing, right? So I don't want you don't want to put a lot of friction in the process of writing or creating something beautiful. You want to, as much as possible, simplify the process. Don't allow any form of friction come in between you. Like just simplify the process as much as possible, so that it's easy to get started writing. So the next thing is, you want to establish a pre-writing ritual to get into the right mindset, regardless of location. So what could it be? It could be that there's this particular lo-fi soundtrack that you listen to write. But the thing is, you want a ritual that is independent of something, right? So what I mean is that if you say, let's say, I listen to this soundtrack when I write, right? That's a ritual. Great. But the funny thing is that sometimes you might be in situations where you cannot listen to that soundtrack. I don't know. I can't possibly think of a situation, but you can't listen to the soundtrack. And so in that situation, what happens? You probably could not write. You could not get in there. So you want something that, even no matter what happens, the ritual, it walks along with you. It could be that, oh, I walk, or I run, stuff like that before I write, or I do 20 push-ups before I get started writing, stuff like that, or I sing a song, or I do a meditation for like 2 minutes before I get started writing, something like that. That, it's inherently something that it will not, like, the chances that you will not be able to do that ritual is very low, right? Yeah, it's very low. So the ritual itself does not become a roadblock to writing. Because as much as possible, why we're even busting these excuses is that, as much as possible, we want to remove all those roadblocks so that we can get started and write. We don't want to be in our own way. Like, we don't want to be our own enemy, right? We don't want to allow those rituals and all those things be the problem, the reason why we're not writing in the first place. So that even the thing that was meant to help us write ends up helping us not to write. What is the listener challenge I have for you for this episode? Our writing challenge for today is to write for 15 minutes in the most unusual places you can think of in your home or neighborhood. Notice how the change of environment affects your writing, and share it with us. Yeah. Okay, so far we've looked at the writing space as a whole, what it means for us, and how we should define our writing space in tangible words such that we know what we're looking for, and how we can recreate one. And the most important thing I keep saying is that use what you have to create what you can. And then when you do have whatever thing that might be the perfect stuff, you do that. But for now, do what you can with what you have, not what you could do with what you could have or you did not have. No, you have these, work with it, right? When you have a space that have the best inspiring songs playing in the background and stuff like that, and the accompanying of all those things, when you do have this environment that's like really inspiring, it'll be great to write in those environments, but you don't have that environment yet, so use what you have to create what you can with it. A dedicated space can be helpful. It is not a prerequisite for writing success. It is not a prerequisite for writing success. The most important thing is to write regularly. wherever you can make it happen, on the bus, in the plane, in transit, during the break hours, wherever you can make it happen. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and leave a review, and join us in the next episode. Until next time, keep writing. I've been your host, Oyemi Chinwakonam, and you've been listening to the Rewriting Podcast.